Hops are famous as a beer ingredient, but there's a lot more to know about medicinal hops benefits. This is a powerful, relaxing herb, and, side note, it has one of the best botanical names, Humulus lupulus. In this episode, I'm sharing 5 medicinal hops benefits, as well as an interesting way for you to work with hops in a hops oil recipe. Hello, and welcome to the Herbs with Rosalee podcast, a show exploring how herbs heal as medicine, as food, and through nature connection. I'm your host, Rosalee de la Forêt. I created this YouTube channel to share trusted herbal wisdom so that you can get the best results when relying on herbs for your health. I love offering up practical knowledge to help you dive deeper into the world of medicinal plants and seasonal living. Each episode of the Herbs with Rosalee podcast is shared on YouTube as well as your favorite podcast app. Transcripts and recipes for each episode can be found at herbswithrosaleepodcast.com or through the link in the video description. Also in the video description, you'll find other helpful resources. For example, to get my best herbal tips, as well as fun bonuses, be sure to sign up for my weekly herbal newsletter. Okay, grab your cup of tea and let's dive in. Long before they were used in beer, hops were a common traditional herbal medicine. With their aromatic and pungent scent, hop strobiles have been prized for their ability to help people relax. Native to Western Asia, Europe, and North America, hops have many traditional uses. The fiber in the vines was used to make a rope or cordage, and the leaves and strobiles were used as a dye plant. The first recorded use of hops for beer come from a monastery in northern France in 822 CE. Several hundred years later, hops were being actively cultivated in Germany for beer. Years later in Europe, it was declared that hops were a required ingredient in beer. This may have been for reasons of taxation, but in addition to adding flavor, hops also stabilize beer, giving it a much longer shelf life. Hops energetics. There's no question as to the predominant taste of hops. This is a bitter plant, and it also has some pretty intriguing aromatics. In this episode, I'm talking about the general medicinal hops benefits, but there are so many different varieties of hops with slightly different flavors and aromatics. So, as always, it's worth intentionally smelling and tasting the hops that you're working with to get an idea of its particular energetics. In addition to being an aromatic bitter, hops is also cooling and drying. If you're new to thinking about an herb's taste and energetics, and you want to know more about why that even matters, if an herb is cooling or warming or drying or moistening, then check out my free Herbal Jumpstart course. Most people would charge money for this course, but I think everyone should have access to this crucial herbal information. So check out the show notes for a direct link to sign up for the free Herbal Jumpstart course. Hops is a relaxing nervine. The first medicinal hops benefit is as a bitter, relaxing nervine for calming nervous systems. You can reach for hops for many types of nervous tension, especially when it's associated with digestive distress or pain or even muscle spasms. Hops truly shine when used for muscle tension, including intestinal cramping, menstrual cramps, or other types of muscle cramps. One of the best ways to use hops for this is actually topically. And I'll be sharing a hops oil recipe with you in just a bit so you know exactly how to do this. Herbalist Matthew Wood says that hops are suited to people with intense personalities and strong emotions that result in nervous exhaustion, insomnia, and even worry. As a relaxing nervine, hops has been shown to decrease stress during stressful situations. In a 2018 double-blind placebo-controlled study, researchers gave healthy volunteers a stressful test. Those drinking an extract of hops had fewer markers of stress than those taking a placebo. Another study showed that when taken over a 4-week period, an extract of hops has been shown to decrease depression, anxiety, and stress in young adults. The relaxing and mild sedative properties of hops are often useful for people with difficulty sleeping. Peter Holmes, author of Energetics of Western Herbs, says that hops fits the profile of hot type insomnia. In other words, people who struggle with sleep and who also feel hot and restless can benefit from the hops' cooling abilities. One study looked at the sedative qualities of non-alcoholic beer made with hops in a population of people who have a lot of work stress. Nurses. The researchers found that the nurses drinking the hops-infused non-alcoholic beer demonstrated improved nighttime sleep quality. Cheryl Tilner, author of Herbal ABCs, the foundation of herbal medicine, summed this up nicely with this. When you are in need of a bitter that also helps alleviate nervous exhaustion, anxiety, neuralgias, and promotes sleep, hops could be your herb. Bitter digestive aid. The second medicinal hops benefit is as a bitter digestive aid. Hops' bitter and pungent taste make them an excellent aromatic digestive herb. They're commonly used for upper gastric digestive disorders, including loss of appetite, stagnant digestion, weak digestion, gas, and bloating. It's likely that hops can stimulate bile production and release, helping people better digest fats as well. Think of hops specifically when there is indigestion associated with nervous tension. Hops were historically used to get rid of worms in the digestive tract. They can also relax intestinal cramping with their antispasmodic effects. Hops for improving metabolic function. The third medicinal hops benefit is for improving metabolic functions. This benefit is especially important because metabolic syndromes, which include insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, affect as many as 30% of the population in the United States. While the causes and therefore the approaches for these diseases are complex, numerous studies have shown that hops may have beneficial effects for people with metabolic syndromes. For example, about 1,000 polyphenolic substances have been found in hop strobiles, and many of those polyphenols have been shown to have a beneficial effect on cholesterol, reducing inflammation, and even supporting heart health. Of course, metabolic syndromes often negatively affect heart health as well. An extract of hops was also shown to benefit acute endothelial function, which is the performance of the membranes lining the heart and blood vessels. And the study was done in both smokers and non-smokers. Herbs that can modulate inflammation are so important because chronic inflammation is the leading cause of most chronic diseases, including things like heart disease, arthritis, back pain, skin conditions like eczema and acne, type 2 diabetes, and so many more. One of my passions is helping people figure out how to best work with herbs and lifestyle changes to powerfully reduce chronic inflammation so they can finally address the root cause of their chronic illness. If you'd like to know more about how to work with herbs holistically for your chronic illness, then definitely check out my free training, How to Use Herbs to Transform Your Health to Get More Energy and Vitality Without Expensive Supplements or a Restrictive Elimination Diet. You can access this free training at herb-training.com or just visit the show notes. Hops for the skin. Our fourth medicinal hops benefit is for supporting the skin. Hops are considered a mild alterative herb and a mild diuretic. They're used to help clear heat and damp from the body. Herbalist Peter Holmes uses hops to clear damp heat from the skin, especially when there's concurrent inflammation such as eczema and acne. If you're interested in learning more about the many powerful uses for alterative herbs, check out my video on red clover where I dive a bit deeper into that. Hops and their phytoestrogenic benefit. The fifth and last medicinal hops benefit is as a source of beneficial phytoestrogens. Hops affect hormones in a variety of ways. For example, they have some phytoestrogenic qualities that have been shown to benefit women with menopausal symptoms. In one study, 120 women in early stages of menopause were given either a hops extract or a placebo for 12 weeks. Those taking the hops extract had significantly fewer hot flashes than those taking the placebo. Clinical herbalists will often attest that there's rarely that one thing or one herb that makes all the difference in a treatment plan. Often it's really a combination of many different things. And here's an interesting study that shows that. Researchers looked at postmenopausal women with metabolic syndrome. Every woman was instructed to consume a modified Mediterranean-style diet, a low glycemic load diet, and to engage in aerobic exercises. Then, half the women were given a hops extract, 100 milligrams of berberine, and 500 IUs of vitamin D3, and also 500 milligrams of vitamin K1 twice daily. Those taking the herbs and the nutrients produced a more favorable bone marker profile, indicative of healthy bone metabolism, compared to those who didn't. How to identify hops. I already said this, but hands down, hops wins the prize for the coolest botanical name. If you haven't said it already, just go ahead and try it for yourself. Humulus lupulus. Now try and say it 3 times fast. I'm not going to do that, but you should. Humulus comes from the Latin word humus, meaning earth, and lupulus comes from lupus, or wolf. The hop plant is native to Europe, Western Asia, and North America. It's a dioecious plant, meaning that there are both female and male flowers, and they are on separate plants. In the herbal medicine, we use the cone-like flowers or strobiles from the female plant. This vivacious perennial vine, or more correctly called a bine, can quickly wind up trellises and walls. In cultivation, it's grown on wired trellises that are often up to 25 feet tall. All along the plant, it has these coarse hairs along the stems, which help to hold it onto structures as it wraps itself around them. It excels in USDA plant hardiness zones 3 to 8 and requires minimal maintenance. The leaves are palmate with 3 to 5 serrated lobes, and the female plants produce bright green cone-like fruits, which are called strobiles, and they're covered in the sticky resinous yellow substance called lupulin. These papery, light, aromatic fruits are what's used to both make beer and herbal medicine. Special considerations for hops. Hops are generally considered safe for most people, but there are a few special considerations when working with hops as medicine. You want to avoid therapeutic dosages of hops with people taking pharmaceutical sedatives, hypnotics, or antidepressants. There's also some caution warranted during pregnancy as well as in someone with depression. Hop strobiles can lose their benefits pretty quickly, so I recommend using them within 6 months of drying them. How to get the most medicinal hops benefits. Did I mention the hops are bitter? So depending on your tolerance for bitter, hops have a variety of different preparation methods. They can be made into a tea or an infusion, but due to that overt bitterness, the tea is often a bit hard to consume on a long-term basis. Many herbalists prefer to use hops as a tincture to minimize the amount of bitter liquid that needs to be consumed. Many of the studies that I cited in this episode were using standardized hops extracts. And although I generally prefer whole plant medicine, capsules are certainly one way to take bitter medicine. Hops have an intriguing, pungent, and aromatic scent, and dried strobiles can be added to pillows or sachets and then smelled at bedtime to promote sleep and relaxation. Hops can also be used as a bath herb before going to bed to help address insomnia. Hops can be used as a fomentation, which is a hot infusion on a cloth, or a poultice on boils or irritated skin, muscle spasms, and pain in your lower back. For many, hops are often served as a beer or as a flavoring in kombucha or other fermented beverages. And it's actually increasingly common to find non-alcoholic hops beverages such as hops water and non-alcoholic beer, which also have a strong hops profile. If you'd like to learn more about how to make potent herbal medicines from the plants that grow around you, whether they be in your garden, wild meadows, or even your local apothecary, then check out our course, Rooted Medicine Circle. In this live 10-month herbal medicine course, we go throughout the seasons together, and at the end of it, you have this entire apothecary filled with potent herbal medicines that you made. Hops oil recipe. Of course, hops is famous as an ingredient in beer, but it's also a fantastic herb to use externally. Reach for hops oil when you have muscle tension or pain and you want some calming and relaxing relief. Here's how to make it. You'll need 50 grams of dried hops strobiles, 250 mils of an oil of your choice, like olive oil or sunflower oil. Both work great. Then you want to combine the hops and the oil in a blender and blend for 5 minutes. And the end result should be this thick green slurry. You want to pour that into a pint-sized jar, then cover that with a tight-fitting lid, and of course, label. Always label. Let this sit for about 6 weeks. You do want to shake it or stir it daily for the first couple of weeks just to get things really macerated well. Then when you're ready, you can strain that through a cheesecloth, and then you can use it externally to relieve muscle tension, muscle cramps, and other pain caused by restriction and muscle tension. For best results, I'd do this within a year and then make a new batch. Definitely don't miss out on your free printable recipe card for this hops oil recipe. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click on the link in the video description, or if you're listening to the podcast, you can go directly to the show notes at herbswithrosaleepodcast.com. Also in the video description and show notes, I've included other helpful links like where you can buy hops, as well as both of my books. If you enjoyed this video on medicinal hops benefits and you value trusted herbal information, then I hope that you'll stick around. The best way to get started is to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app. One of the best ways to retain and fully understand something you've just learned is to share it in your own words. So with that in mind, I invite you to share your takeaways with me and the entire Herbs with Rosalee community. You can leave comments on my YouTube channel, on the herbswithrosaleepodcast.com show notes page, or simply hit reply to my Wednesday emails. I read every single comment that comes in, and I'm excited to hear your herbal thoughts about these 5 medicinal hops benefits and beyond. I deeply believe that this world needs more herbalists and plant-centered folks, and I'm so glad that you're here as part of this herbal community. Also, a big round of thanks to the people all over the world who make this podcast happen week to week. Nicole Paul is the project manager who oversees the whole operation, from guest outreach to writing show notes to actually uploading each episode and so many other things I don't even know. She really holds this whole thing together. Francesca is our fabulous video and audio editor. She not only makes listening more pleasant, she also adds beauty to the YouTube videos with plant images and video overlays. Tatiana Rusikova is the botanical illustrator who creates gorgeous plant and recipe illustrations for us. I love them. I know that you do too. Christy edits the recipe cards, and then Jenny creates them as well as the thumbnail images for YouTube. Michelle is the tech wizard behind the scenes, and Karen is our student services coordinator and customer support. For those of you who like to read along, Jennifer is who creates the transcripts each week. Xavier, my handsome French husband, is the cameraman and website IT guy. It takes an herbal village to make it all happen, including you. Okay, you've made it to the very end of the show, which means you get a gold star and this herbal tidbit. So I live in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, and more specifically Washington State, where most of the hops that are used in the US are grown. So according to Statistic, there's about 100 million pounds of hops grown each year in the US, and Washington State grows 70 to 80 million pounds of those hops. And hops are a really big deal in the Pacific Northwest, beer culture especially. So if you go to a craft beer centered pub, your menu will often list the IBUs of each beer as well as the flavor and scent profile of the hops used. So the IBU scale is something that goes from 0 to 120, and in general, bitter beers have an IBU rating of 50 and above. And for your last herbal tidbit, hops are in the same family as cannabis, which is readily apparent when you smell the aromatics of fresh or recently dried hops. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and enjoy your medicinal hops benefits.